All right,
Lord.
fellas. For the next subject, babyface or heel. Now, for those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, babyface means good guy hero, heel means bad guy villain, tweener is someone in between babyface and heel. So I came up with a list of athletes or celebrities, and myself in the panel, we're going to decide whether they are a babyface or heel. BRF, you go first.
Hmm.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh boy.
Courtesy to Undisputed World Champ. Shout out to Undisputed World Champ. He came up with Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh man. Odell Beckham Jr. Oh gosh. I don't think he was never. I think he's a tweener because I don't think he was ever bad enough to be a heel, but he was never like universally loved by everyone to be a babyface. So I think he was. I think he's in the middle. But no, I take that back. I will say this: uh, that Super Bowl game when he was with the Rams, I think it. I felt bad for him because he
He would have won
went.
Super Bowl MVP.
He would have won Super Bowl MVP. He went off, and I was happy for him to see him finally get a moment like that in the Super Bowl to be able to show what he could still do. Because even though he wasn't New York Giants Odell Beckham Jr., but he was still the Odell Beckham Jr. that could take it to the house on any given play, and he wasn't like all time early great game breaker Odell, but he was still a game breaker when he was with the Rams. And for him to suffer that injury the way he did, man, it was tough. It was tough, and I think he garnered a lot of sympathy from people, and deservedly so. I mean, your first shot at the Super Bowl, you go and you show out, and you're on your way to Super Bowl MVP, and then you tear your ACL. Like, come on, like that is like you wouldn't wish nothing like that on your worst enemy, let alone somebody like an Odell Beckham getting his first opportunity in the biggest game of his life. Um, but I think, man, and like a lot of the when he was in New York, like I'll say tweener, but I will say okay, I'll be for real. I'll say tweener, but I'm a lean like kind of like the baby face side of tweener a little more than the heel side because I guess if you want to say kind of like I don't know necessarily like the Stone Cold Steve Austin type of baby face, but kind of close. Um, like those his New York Giants days was like some of the greatest performances as far as like a season wise you'll ever see from a wide receiver in terms of like first few years getting into the league and just dominating from the word go. Like and then everybody's gonna go back to that catch against the Dallas Cowboys that Monday Night Football game. I mean, still to this day one of the greatest catches ever recorded, ever seen on TV. Like ain't no way a human being should be making a catch one handed, that angle, a ball thrown that deep. They just ain't no way. Ain't no way. And he pulled it off, scored a touchdown, and it was just like, but the thing that people kind of misconstrue about Odell Beckham, let's not let that catch define him as a player because New York Giants Odell Beckham is like that was S tier football. Odell Beckham with the Giants was S tier football. He was amazing. And this was back and this was like twilight of his career. Eli Manning he had and was still just destroying any and every corner you put in front of him. Um, I think the bad taste kind of started to get in your mouth with like how he handled certain like how he handled certain situations, like whether it was getting out of whether it was leaving the Giants and then ultimately getting to Cleveland and ultimately leaving Cleveland and just I don't know, just
The playoff
there could have
game
been
before against Green Bay Packers.
exactly like there are some things that kind of was like you know what he's good, but is he really? Do I trust him in certain moments? Like, is he really like that as far as like a big time player or a team, just a teammate in general? Can we really trust him like that? But but yeah, that's what I say. That's what I say. Ultimate. But then, like I said, that Super Bowl game really kind of the Super Bowl and him getting hurt and then kind of garnering a little bit of that sympathy back, and then and then another thing was like going to Baltimore, and even though we know he wasn't that Odell Beckham anymore, the way he was still able to play in Baltimore and helping that team out, man, just being a vet, kind of taking a lead, just you earn more respect for him. So all in all, I'm gonna say a little more on the babyface side, but I'm gonna say tweener, just because I don't think he was never universally hated enough to be a heel, and I don't think he was never really universally loved to be a babyface. So I'm gonna go tweener. I'm gonna kind of stick in the middle.
Champ.
Oh man, Odell, babyface. I say he's a babyface, and I will say this. This is coming from a guy who called Odell Beckham overrated. I used to call him overrated. I felt like him how I felt about Allen Iverson when he was playing. I always felt like he was kind of, and this is just my sentiment, how I was thinking back then. I didn't appreciate Odell until after he left the game. If he does not get hurt, he's in the Hall of Fame. Because we talk about every great receiver in the 2000s, you got to mention Odell in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to him, I was this old man, get off my lawn type of character. I'm not going to lie to you. When he caught that pass, guys like myself, the old heads, and I will admit it. Man, Chris Carter was doing that back in the 90s, man. That shit ain't all that, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. The thing is, his passion was kind of misplaced. People, and if it wasn't for how voracious the New York media was, they kind of like parents when you make an F on the spelling test, but you make all A's on your report card. They still go back to that damn F on the spelling test and ask you why you ain't make a 100. So that's how I feel about how the New York media was. Now, I do kind of look at the whole boat incident. You going to Cancun on a day off right before a playoff game. That was kind of weird, to be honest with you. I mean, that was kind of weird.
That franchise ain't never been the same since that photo.
But wait a minute. But in fairness to Odell, though, we did see Tony Romo and Jason Witten at Cabo San Lucas before a playoff game.
Yes, we did. I was getting to that. So guess what? To
which Terrell Owens had to publicly defend Tony Romo and said, "That's my quarterback. That's my teammate."
Boy, I ain't never seen T.O. cry day in their life. Oh my gosh, boy.
You ought to do that. That's not fit. But yeah. I'm sorry. The funnies are gonna come out. But
that's my quarterback. I'm like, T.O., don't do it to him, T.O. Don't do it, T.O. Don't do it.
Y'all criticize him, man. That's not fair. Sound like damn Porky Pig on that damn stage. But I think that if it wasn't for him, if he would have played for a team like a Minnesota or Atlanta, people would have paid attention a hell of a lot more to his passion and his ability, more so than some of his misplaced passion, what they were used to say, what the media used to say on the sideline. Because guess what? The Giants outside of here wasn't that damn good. Let's just keep it all the way a buck. If you shut him down, you pretty much just shut the passing game down. Let's just keep it all the way real. Because during that time, Victor Cruz was hurt all the time, and he was the guy for New York. So if it wasn't for how voracious the New York media was, then would we really look at him as like, no. But yeah, like I said, I am a guy who called Odell overrated. I am a guy who said Chris Carter was making those catches back in the 90s. I was the old man, get off my lawn type of guy when it came to Odell. Because, of my infatuation with football nostalgia. I will openly admit that. Sometimes I still do get caught up in my football nostalgia because I am old. Just like my father would tell me all the time, Joe Green is better than Aaron Donald, and I look at him kind of crazy. But, that's how generations, we clash over sports. But as far as Odell, he wanted to win. And I think that the media in New York kind of got onto him a hell of a lot more than they should. The Giants was not that good. Eli was in the twilight of his career. Tom Coughlin was on his way out. There was a lot of changes within that franchise, and he was the guy. He got the criticism that a quarterback would get. He dealt with the criticism that normally a quarterback could get because he was that guy. But if he doesn't get hurt, he's in the Hall of Fame. When you talk about the 2010s, the main names that I'm going to mention is Megatron, is Antonio Brown, is Julio Jones, is all of those guys. But I'm going to mention Odell Beckham because of how dynamic that he was. He was a hell of a dynamic player. And let's not forget that rivalry that he had with Josh Norman for that little short stint that they had while Josh Norman was still good. So I label him as a babyface. He didn't go out there and do anything that was deemed heinous. There was a lot of passion. I think the media misplaced a lot of it. And like I said, this is coming from a Falcons fan who was like Julio at that time was end all be all. I was the ultimate homer. Because whenever people would bring up Odell Beckham, I would always say, well, hell, he ain't Julio. And that'll end the argument. So and that was my mentality. When he ain't Julio, and I used to say, look, like I said, it's the nostalgia when it comes to sports with some of us old heads. But I would say that Odell was a hell of a receiver. If he doesn't get hurt, we're talking about him at least top 10, maybe even top 5 of all time if he doesn't get hurt, because he was that damn dynamic. I mean, the first 3 years he went for more yards than Randy Moss did in his first 3 years. And remember, Randy Moss, when he first got to Minnesota, it was a hard thing to guard. I know this. We had to face. That was the main thing that my team was concerned about when we faced them in the NFC Championship. How are we going to stop this guy? Because Ray Buchanan, he wasn't as fast as Randy Moss. I'm surprised they contained him during that game. So I gotta say, man, Odell, much like Allen Iverson, I didn't respect your game until after you retired, until after you got into the latter parts of your career. I fell into the hype of the media and how they criticized you, and I criticized you because of my infatuations with not only, my wide receiver, that being Julio Jones, who's arguably the best in Falcons history, but got involved in the nostalgia of sports when it comes to the eras that I grew up in. I didn't respect his game until I got to where I am now as far as sports and learning a lot. And I'll say this, man, I know this off topic. Us old heads, we can learn a lot from the young guys. Let's just keep it a buck about sports. Our era is not just end all be all. I cannot tell you the things that I've learned from PSP himself, from Trent, from Brandon from the block, from a lot of these Hot Take Kenny, a lot of these younger guys that has taught me a lot about sports without them even knowing. Because prior to doing these podcasts, thank God for PSP for bringing me on, I was just a stat guy and an eye test guy. It was really no context. It was either this or that. So to all of you older guys out there, 37 and, older, start realizing you can learn something from these young men and these young women that you could never realize, because they keep you updated on a lot of the stuff that's going on in sports. We have to start looking at the world of sports as well as the rest of the world throughout outside of the lenses of how we grew up in the nostalgia of sports. We can learn something from these young guys. So take your time to learn, man. Just because you old doesn't mean, don't be the last person to realize that the world has changed. The world changed, and guess what? I wasn't hip to that change when Odell was playing. But now I realize how great he really was after his career was over.
Tweener. Had not been for injuries, Odell Beckham Jr. would have definitely been in the Hall of Fame. The only two wide receivers you would argue above him are Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. No other wide receiver that was better than him.
You can for the 2010s. You can make it. The 2010s. You can make a case for AJ Green, but that's it.
You could make a case for AJ Green, but I think Odell was more dynamic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Especially with the yak ability. Odell, what catapulted Odell Beckham Jr.'s career, that Sunday Night Football game against the Dallas Cowboys when he made that crazy one-handed catch, in which the following year he was on the cover of Madden.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Odell Beckham Jr., and again, Cleveland, I don't really put that on him with Cleveland. Baker Mayfield at that time, he and Baker, for whatever reason in Cleveland, that didn't work out. And it was kind of exciting at first because Baker, a young quarterback coming off a really good rookie year. And with Odell, I'm like, how come it didn't work? And then just a year later, when Odell was injured, Baker Mayfield was playing well. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game. Odell's a good dude. People look at some of the bad things because they look at the party incident with the yacht. They also look at that Paris incident with the OnlyFans or the Instagram model, in the hotel room.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the rumors about that. Jalen Rose. Shout out to Jalen Rose. He kind of squeezed that into his show one day. Y'all heard about what happened on there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't with you. I can't with you, bro. I can't with you. I can't with you. God, I can't with you. God, I can't with you. God, do it.
Oh man, Hail Mary. That was priceless. But yeah,
Hail Mary, Hail Mary, full of grace. Yeah, exactly.
That was crazy. Jalen Rose squeezed that in. You heard about what happened on there? I think it was Monica McNutt who said, "Stop it, Jalen." So.
Mm-hmm. But Odell, definitely a tweener. Very dynamic wide receiver. I mean, that 2014 wide receiver draft class. I mean, you got Sammy Watkins with the 4th overall pick, Mike Evans 7th. Odell was like the 3rd wide receiver taken. You had Devontae Adams. You had Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
You had a really good wide receiver class that year.
Very, 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 very underrated. That class does not get the respect they deserve for how many good wide receivers they brought into the league. That 2014 class is highly underrated.
Yeah. But and also too, he did help out Eli because Eli did play for a little bit longer. He especially 2014, 2015, he gave some of Eli's good years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there were a lot more problems with the New York Giants organization. All right, next one on the list, Colin Cowherd.
Oh, he's a heel. he's for me. I think he's a heel. Like
quarterback.
Oh boy, stop.
You know what? I lost it for Colin Cowherd. I say he's a heel because he never apologized to Sean Taylor's family.
There you go.
Because he went on ESPN because they wanted it. Because back then, even to today, I would say the University of Miami was not exactly mass friendly. They was not necessarily media friendly. And they want that they wanted his unaliving to be gang related so bad that they was just willing to put out information without even saying anything. So the fact that he never apologized about that is kind of went down in my book. He's a hell of a reporter, but he kind of went down in my book on that day. Plus, people don't give him enough flack for some of the dumb hot takes that he pulled. Like he said, Pittsburgh Steelers should trade T.J. Watt, their star wide receiver, and all of that for Caleb Williams. Like, why the blank would you do that? And it's a lot of.
Let's not forget the Dwayne Haskins situation. Remember that controversy?
Yes. As a journalist, you have to know what you're talking about. I'm not going to go around here and spit ghost written crap out of my face. You have to get with your people and the day before we go on the air. And I'm just gonna pull the curtain back just a little bit. Day before we go on the air, PSP sends me a rundown. I got to do my research. Sometimes it's a week in advance. I got to do my research. I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about. So for you to be a reporter and you not, yeah, there's a lot of hot takes, a lot of just. The only part that I really respected it is when he did Kobe's tribute. When he did Kobe's tribute, and he said sometimes it's just not for rhyme or reason, it's just fate. And remember, they had to turn the camera off because he kind of broke down because he's in Los Angeles. But I will say this: for all of the hot takes and all of the sad and maybe bad things that he's probably put out there, you can't discount how good of a reporter that he is. And the thing is, he's changed with the times. He had to. The old way that he was doing was just not going to work in this time of drama media. Like he said one thing that I agree with. We're not in the sports business, we're in the story business. And your longevity as a journalist will be your ability to find stories. So I give him credit. He is one hell of a journalist. And he paved the way for a lot of guys to have shows. Before Colin Cowherd, there wasn't a lot of shows like he is on the air. His show was one of the first shows with like a podcast vibe to it. He was one of the first shows. But some of the stuff he said about Sean Taylor when he passed, some of the bad hot takes that he has, it's kind of like what I used to say, football better than that. And it's just like, better than that. And that's how come I put him as a heel at this point, because it's like some of the hot
Or what
takes
he said about Baker Mayfield.
I know he's punching the air right about now every time he sees Baker Mayfield make a Pro Bowl, because he was holding Sam Darnold. And it's probably because it's that Los Angeles factor, I believe. USC is in Los Angeles. He wants those USC guys to do good, which USC, the only guy that they have produced at the quarterback position that has really done anything is Carson Palmer. And that was it. So Vince Ferragamo.
Or how about when he tried to say in that 2019 draft when Lamar Jackson was coming out, he had the nerve to say Josh Rosen was a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I about threw some at the television screen.
Yeah, and Josh Rosen was out of the league, was almost damn near out of the league 2 years later. In fact, he lost his job a year later to Kyler Murray. So
as a rookie, exactly.
And so they didn't even give Josh Rosen a year to improve. They said they saw what he was and got him up out of there with the quickness. So much for showing everybody what they missed on Josh Rosen.
Exactly. But for every Josh Rosen over Lamar Jackson bad take, I give him props that he shared my vision about the Michael Penix Jr. draft pick. He kind of shared my vision on that a little bit. So I got respect for him for that, because he came out and said, I completely understand why the Falcons did it. And Chant, remember, I broke it down. I completely understood why the Falcons did it. Oh, yeah, we signed Kirk Cousins to that big money contract. Bruh, we don't trust you to stay healthy like that. We go ahead and get this young guy in. That way, if you get hurt, we got insurance, because if you get hurt, he's going to come in and be the quarterback, and he's going to take over from the jump. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's like Champ said, man. Yeah, Colin Cowherd, even though he's got a lot of bad takes, he's still one of the faces as far as just like real true journalism out there. He's still one of the faces that are out there. So, yeah, you have to respect him for for everything he's done for the business and for journalism and stuff like that. You definitely have to respect everything he's done. But yeah, I would still put him. I would put him as a heel, but at the same time, I feel like that's what he wanted. That's what he wanted. He didn't want to be like the guy he didn't want to be the journalist you like. He wanted to be those like, I have my feelings. I'm gonna put them out there. If you like them, great. If you don't, I don't care. These are my thoughts. So I think it was kind of by design.
I say heel because I think there are times his criticism when it came to certain players, particularly Baker Mayfield, went too far. And I felt like look, there were comparisons coming out of the draft between Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel. Okay, I understand that. But there are times I felt like Colin Cowherd went too far with his assessment, his criticism. Plus, champ, you also brought up giving up all these draft picks just for Caleb Williams. He's had some bad takes before, but still, to me, Deshaun Taylor thing that still stings with me to this day. And of course, what happened with Dwayne Haskins? You had all this time to do your job as a reporter and as a journalist, as credible as you are. You should have taken the time to actually do your job.
Yes.
And for you to embarrass yourself like that, I'm sorry. But heel to me, that goes with Colin Cowherd. Last one. J.R. Smith.
Oh man.
You know what? He's an anti-hero, man. I like J.R. Smith, man. I mean, he was a little bit obnoxious, untied folks' shoes and crap. That was arguably the funniest thing I ever seen on the basketball.
Not the we talking about the Henny guy, bro. That's who we talking about, bro.
He's a tweeter, man. Like I said, that was the funniest thing I ever seen. For him to bend down and untie that dude's shoes. But to his credit, when it was time for him to win a championship in Cleveland, he was on his best behavior. And he was an asset to that team as far as, providing a lot of key plays for that team when they won against the Golden State Warriors. He
did win Sixth Man of the Year when he was in New York when they had that 54-win game season. Yes, but no one can forget that infamous game one.
Oh, yeah, no.
When he dribbled the top. And that happened before. Remember, Magic did this. He's not the player that Magic was. Let's just be clear. But everybody remember the 1984 NBA Finals when Magic Johnson dribbled out the time when he was supposed to pass it in to Kareem.
But, he was named as Tragic Johnson.
Yeah, his name Tragic Johnson. But as far as JR, man, when it was time, he played. Everybody's going to criticize him. When you are in New York, you're going to be criticized a hell of a lot more than any other. He was always going to the club. He was always having a good time and, pouring, I remember he won the NBA Finals. He out there, they was pouring beer on each other. That was crazy. But I label him as a tweener. It wasn't one of those guys that guys like Stephen A make guys look better than what they really are. Like the time that Stephen A said, about a certain case in criminal history, in one of the most infamous cases in recent memories, how he was stating that, J.R. Smith should be wearing a hoodie because of that. So a lot of the media will make a lot of guys seem a lot better.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh
yeah. They'll make you seem a lot worse than you think you are. But in reality, LeBron gave him high marks. A lot of guys on his team gave him high marks, saying how hard of a worker that he was. He just liked to go to the club and have a good time. He was a prankster. Like I said, the funniest thing I've ever seen was him untie that dude's shoes at the free throw line. He bit down, untied his shoes, and got. That was the funniest. That was funny, man. I don't care what anybody said. My dad wasn't a big fan of that, but when he bit down and untied that dude's shoes like he did, that was the funniest thing I ever seen happen in the game.
But the great thing about JR, though, he has no conscience. Sometimes he'll make some he'll make mistakes, though, but other times you can live with it. But he could also golf. For those who may not know, J.R. Smith can actually golf. And remember, he did win too in HBCU.
Mm-hmm. He did. But I like J.R. Smith, man. J.R. Smith was he, like I said, when it was time to concentrate, he concentrated and he knuckled down and he was an asset to that Cleveland team. And guess what? He was a 6th Man of the Year in New York for a reason. He was an asset to that team. like I said, when you're in New York, you're going to get criticized a hell of a lot more than you should because of, it's New York. New York. I mean, New York is one of those places that, if I was an athlete, because of how hard the media was, I don't think I would want to play there. Beautiful city, beautiful place to party, beautiful place to be at. But as far as the media goes, as being a sports star, if I would have been a sports star, I'm like, nah, I can't play in here. That's too much. It's like 20 pounds of gravity just weighing on you every single day. Because if you do so much as wipe your feet sideways, they're going to talk to you about it. They're going to talk about it in the paper in New York. But as far as J.R. Smith, man, I got to put a bit between them, man. He didn't do anything just heinous for you to just want to hate him. But at the same time, a lot of them antics, untying folks' shoes, pouring beer on folks at the bar, after winning the championships, certain stuff that came out in the media about his life, his personal life, people are gonna bark on that. But J.R. Smith, man, I like J.R. Smith, man.
BRF.
Definitely a tweener. I gotta agree. As a as a as an avid supporter of the 2015 Atlanta Hawks that won 60 games, I will forever not like J.R. Smith for remembering that he was a really good 3-point shooter and just lighting us up in Phillips and just lighting them up in Phillips Arena, lighting them up. Like he threw it up, it went. It felt like he threw it up, it went in, and I'm just like, bro, why you act like you can shoot now? Like what? Why now? And just and just like that was like what Cleveland did to Atlanta in that series was just a dog walk, just was a flat out dog walk, and he was definitely part of that reason. But yeah, definitely like this. Besides all the antics and all that stuff, I feel like this century, he's definitely one of the better 6 men this side of Jamal Crawford and Manu Ginobili. Definitely one of the better 6 men we've seen as far as like his ability, like. And what I mean by that is, even though he's a 6 man and he's coming off the bench, it's almost like he's a 6 starter. It's almost like he's the 6 starter. Like he could go out there, he could if you need him to go out and get you 30 minutes, he could get you 30 minutes. If you need him to go out and take over a game shooting the ball, he could do that. And prime J.R. Smith in Denver was one of the sickest athletes you are ever going to see. You are ever going to see. So but yeah, a lot of the antics definitely do make it between them. Like Champ definitely brought up him untying the dude shoot at the free throw line. I mean, he definitely. I mean, you can't not talk about J.R. Smith's antics and not talk about that moment. And then of course, Game 1, NBA Finals, Cleveland Golden State. The horrible play. And yeah, exactly. That picture of him, that picture of LeBron, like just that picture of LeBron James, like almost like what are you doing face? Like that is going to live like in infamy. That's going to be a steal in time. Like
Apparently,
if you
he was
like.
high that night.
Boy, man, let me tell you something. There's another still shot of him. Like after that moment, if you look at his face, his eyes are like he could barely see. Like his eyes were like you could barely see. I believe you were blown. I believe you were blown that night because I tell you what, the look you had, them eyes was just like I want to say like, bro, can you see what you do? Can you see? but. But yeah, but no, he's a. I have to give him I'm gonna. J.R. Smith's a tweener. J.R. Smith is a tweener, but it's like, but yeah, like champ, yeah, like the anti-hero style, like yeah, just like you wanna. It's like even when you want to root against him, you can't. You can't because he's gonna do something that's kind of gonna reel you in, whether it's whether it's a funny moment or whether it's a clutch three or he's dunking in somebody's face because J.R. Smith, for what it's worth, got a highlight reel of dunks in his career a mile long. So we definitely got to pay that man, pay dues to that man, and get that man respect. Like I said, this century, he's definitely one of the best 6 men this side of Jamal Crawford and Manu Ginobili. If you're gonna rank like greatest 6 men of all time or greatest 6 men of the 21st century, I think J.R. Smith has to be in your top 5 as far as greatest 6 men of the 21st century. He's got to be in your top 5.
I agree. I mean, he's got to be a tweener because of the antics, but at the same time, he brought some excitement. JR can hit long distance shots. JR can dunk though. And on top of that, he could be a contributor from time to time, especially when it came to big shots, big situations. He could hit big shots. The thing I liked with JR, he was not afraid. He had no conscience. I mean, sometimes he will do some dumb shit though, but at the same time though, he will find but at the same time, hey,